Welcome to this edition of Belmont Journal's News Now. I'm Jeff Hansel, the Executive Director of the Belmont Media Center. And today we have a special guest. We're interviewing Daphne Burt, who's an ambassador and moderator for Braver Angels. Daphne, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And Daphne is here today to talk to us a little bit about an upcoming event at the Belmont Public Library, which is called, Daphne?
It's a workshop called Skills for Disagreeing Better.
And can you tell us a little bit about your organization? Well, excuse me, let me just go back and say the event is on March 21st from 9 a.m. to noon at the Belmont Public Library. So we want you to put that in your appointment books or your iPhones or whatever, and think about attending that. And we're going to tell you just a little bit about that event. So first of all, Daphne, what is Braver Angels for people who don't know?
Thanks. So Braver Angels is a mostly volunteer-led organization that is committed, and it's national, I should say. So it's a national volunteer-led organization that's committed to the idea of creating courageous citizens. And courageous citizens are those who can engage with one another to have positive and important conversations that then can bring about change and heal the wounds and the great divide that is now so present in our country. And I think all of us know, you and I know people who have been so affected by this divide, friends who don't talk to each other anymore, family members who've been divided, and people are afraid to enter into these kinds of conversations.
So in a way, it's about teaching people or getting folks to relearn how to have conversations in which you don't agree with the person you're talking with, right?
Absolutely. The workshop that I'll be giving on the 21st, Skills for Disagreeing Better, it teaches the four basic Braver Angels skills. It's an acronym because everything has an acronym. Listen, acknowledge, pivot, and perspective. And the idea, listen, is we would think is obvious, but in order to have a conversation, we first have to be willing to listen. And that also means two really difficult things. We have to let go of our inner debaters. I have a big one. We have to listen without already arguing with the person in our heads.
Okay.
Okay.
So in other words, don't get ahead of yourself.
Exactly right. And when we're already trying to argue, we're not actually listening
Right.
because
Okay.
we're forming our response. The second really hard thing is that we believe that these kinds of conversations, we have to let go of the expectation that I'm going to convince you that I'm right and you're wrong.
Right. Okay.
So we have to completely drop that. That is some of the hardest things for people actually to even acknowledge and want to do, because we're all so convinced we're right.
Right.
And but when we listen in a way of not trying to convince someone they're wrong, but just listen to them, then the next step is acknowledge. So we're listening in order to acknowledge what the person has said, sometimes even to agree with it. That is hard listening, particularly when someone's saying something that you are already sure you disagree with.
Mhm.
So listening hard to acknowledge, and then acknowledge what they've said and who they are as a person. The P is for pivot. And this is sort of our secret sauce, because what we do at that point, once we've listened and acknowledged, is say, would you like to hear what I think?
I see. So it's turning the conversation around,
E-
literally, and saying,
Exactly.
I've
And
heard you, and now, yeah,
right. And sometimes people say no. I mean, or
right.
sometimes people aren't ready, which is,
Okay.
I think, is also okay,
Yeah,
because at least they've been listened to.
right.
Right.
Yeah,
But when someone says yes, then they're involved in the conversation. Then they've agreed to listen to us.
right.
And then the last thing is perspective, which is just being open to having your perspective changed.
And isn't part of it too that you're in face to face with people, and when you're talking to somebody, you might like them, there are aspects of that person, and so that you enjoy, and it isn't that you want to have a bad relationship with them, right? You want to be able to spend time with them without whatever you're disagreeing with get in the way. So in a way, it is a lot about just listening, right? I mean, would you say that's a lot of it, or?
I think that's a lot of it.
Okay.
And I think that we're not just listening just so we can all get along.
Right.
We're also
Okay.
listening because there's stuff we can learn from each
Right.
other.
Okay.
We are fed so much information that's just wrong and make
Right.
assumptions about people without understanding where they come from. So,
Yeah, and so many of the conversations on the internet are just back and forth, and there's no time to reflect, and you don't even know if you're actually talking to a person anyway. So,
right.
um,
Exactly right.
so why should people come to this event, and maybe what will happen there in brief if they come to the Belmont Public Library on March 21st
At 9 o'clock
at 9 o'clock? Thank you.
with coffee and donuts provided.
With coffee and donuts? Yes, right.
So people should come because I think because they're interested in healing relationships, because they're interested in democracy, they're interested in moving forward with what they think is important, and that so they will come with this openness to either because they've had difficult conversations or they want to do better, they want to heal their relationships, or they're really concerned, I think, more broadly with what's going on in the country. Um, so that I hope will bring people in. What will happen is I will do some teaching about these 4 skills and we'll have time to practice. And I think that's part of what's really important. It's a workshop, not a lecture.
Okay.
So we divide people into groups of 2 or 3. We actually ask folks to sit with someone they didn't come with, and then practice having these kinds of doing these skills.
So it's
Um,
very active, in other words.
Absolutely. It's fabulous. And I think, in every workshop that I've offered, some people know each other, some people don't. If you're from the same town, you may be surprised by who you see there, and have an opportunity to have a conversation that you might never have expected that you would, and that really is wonderful and positive.
And what do you hope people walk away with at the end of the session?
I, I hope people walk away with hope, that knowing that the divide that is so painful is not permanent, knowing that they can do something about it. I hope they come away with a desire to be a part of Braver Angels. Here's my pitch: $12 a year makes you a Braver Angel. And we have a great newsletter, as well as let people know what opportunities there are. For instance, in Massachusetts, we've got a calendar and that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that people feel that there's a group out there they can be a part of, that they can make changes to themselves in, and that they can then influence other groups that they're a part of.
Yeah. Well, based on what I've seen on the news and on your website, you have many events nationwide. So people are responding to what Braver Angels has been doing for several years now. So we look forward to having this workshop in Belmont and having a great way to spend a morning, but learn how to disagree with folks and have interesting conversations about that. So
I'm looking forward to it.
So besides the workshop on Saturday, the 21st, what other kinds of programs does Braver Angels offer?
So we also offer debates. We've got small groups. We offer one-on-one conversations. There are many different workshops. After Skills for Disagreeing Better, there are 2 more that I like to offer. One is called Depolarizing Ourselves, which focuses on the groups we're a part of and how we can deal with our own inner polarizer. And then one called Politics and Families, which we seem to often offer in November. The other thing that I think is great about Braver Angels is we have these opportunities for these kinds of workshops in person as well as online, so that folks who want to learn more and participate more can do these things online as well as things that are offered in person.
So there's a variety of events in the Massachusetts area, you're saying, in and around Boston on the same.
Yes.
Okay.
And across the whole state, yes.
And how do people find out more about Braver Angels?
Well, they can go to braverangels.org, which is our basic website, sign up to be a member at $12, at which point then they can get the newsletter, and they'll also hear from Massachusetts organization about what's going on. They can also just look on the Braver Angels website and look for local calendars. They can find the Massachusetts calendar.